Welcome to Was It Good, the podcast where we review movies and TV shows. Today we are talking the finale of Star Trek Picard and the first new episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Usually I'm joined by Christian or Arjuna, but neither decided to watch Star Trek. So I went to the source. I went to the parents and asked them to join me on today's podcast. Mom, Dad, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you. We're glad to be here.
Why are you telling me welcome? I said welcome to you all.
I know.
This is your first time both being on a pod. Dad, you've been on our pods before.
Yes.
Mom, you've never been on any of our pods.
No,
Let's start there. Let's break that down. Why do you think that is?
because I'm shy.
Star Trek Picard, though.
Yes.
Let's start attacking Christian and Arjuna because they're not here to defend themselves.
That sounds good.
Why do you think?
Oh,
Why do you think neither one of them decided to watch Star Trek Picard? Even though you both, obviously, well, Mom, you more so. You started with
Yes.
the original Star Trek.
Yes.
And then when you married Dad, you forced him into your sci-fi cult.
I didn't force
Well,
it.
it was not that I was forced into sci-fi cult. It was just something to watch. It was like action. I always like the action. There was some action in it, but not a lot. But it still was intriguing.
It was different, right?
Yeah, it was
Obviously,
different.
The original Star Trek was something not totally new because you had other sci-fi things going, but it was the main one that everyone seemed to like.
Star
catch on
Trek,
to.
yes, that was definitely one of the first ones besides Doctor Who.
Doctor Who. That's another one that Christian refuses to watch that for some reason.
Yes, yeah.
Again, why do you think that Christian is so against it?
Because probably I liked it. That's
Interesting.
why.
There's some.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe this should, instead of being like a review of Picard, maybe it
Should
could
be
be
a
like
review.
family therapy.
No.
But then like the family therapy thing kind of is interesting because if you look at Star Trek Picard season 2, right? So big overview, Q decides to come back because Q, the ultimate god dickhead, I guess,
Right.
is dying and wants to do one. What did he say? He says he wants to do one final thing with Picard, which is for him to like go back and figure out his trauma, his family issues.
Right.
I think he did say forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
To forgive himself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he obviously held on to that guilt.
Yes.
Well, my thought on the whole, if I put the whole thing into how I saw it, I felt that it was a giant therapy session for Picard.
Right.
And it was Q allowing himself to finally look like he had some feelings, that he actually cared. And we've never seen Q look vulnerable before, and we do see that in this. He's not so mischievous. It's not a prank, which it always has been
Right.
in the past. So,
And Q obviously he's doing this because he's dying. So Q will obviously no longer be a part of Star Trek.
correct.
And Picard this season especially was Patrick Stewart actually had like a big input in terms of writing and kind of coming up with a story. Season 3 is going to be supposedly the final season for Picard.
Right.
So it's a 3-season story and it wraps up everything. Picard being who he is, some would argue Picard is the better captain like over Kirk, right? Because one would argue like Picard had more screen time, had more movies, had a longer running show. When you look at this Picard and the next generation Picard, so far with what we've been given, does it make sense with this character? Because a lot of criticism with this season was around the backstory of Picard and his mother and what trauma the whole thing, because we never hear about this.
It never came before in any of the other series or the movies or any of it. Was there any they didn't allude to any issue with his mother. We just knew that he grew up on some fancy chateau, in some fancy chateau in France,
But he's British.
and that was all. Yeah, but he's British, which is not unusual,
Really?
really.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Europe,
Europe is all connected.
France, England,
Same thing.
Spain, they're all.
Is how many heads they can cut off.
Oh, French Revolution. Oh, gotcha.
The French
back
Revolution.
in the
Yeah.
old Victorian
Marie
days,
Antoinette.
isn't it? Is how many heads they can cut off, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
So when I started watching the season, and we talked about this early on, like the first couple of episodes were very sci-fi, like really cool sci-fi where it's big spaceship battles, time travel, the Borg is back. Like, I remember watching the first episode, and I texted the Was It Good crew, Krishna, Juna, and Learman, and I was like, this is actually interesting and good. But around like episode 3 or 4, once we're in 2023, it's very much
24. I think it was
2024.
24, yes.
Well, when we're in that period, it was very much like this sucks. Like,
it's I don't think that was their best.
Well,
that wasn't so great.
I think the what got me confused about it was because, like, if you compare the first season to the second season, it was nothing to do with the first season. It was completely, totally off. The only thing that I could match the 2 seasons together was when they were moving off, and the Borg attacked them. Well, at the time we didn't know. Well, they assumed it was the Borg, and that's when Picard thought it was Q. Was that or I didn't think if he knew it was Q or the Borg, but but what I'm supposed to say was there was no link to the 2
to the first season.
Yes.
Yeah. The only link you could argue is the fact that there was the same characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was also kind of interesting, where you have Brent Spiner, right, show up and he's playing like another ancestor of whoever.
Well, he's not the one who created Data, is he?
So
because that's what I thought.
This is the thing that, like, I get frustrated when it comes to, like, Star Trek.
Yeah.
Is I feel, especially, like, and I get the show. I get it. Before anyone starts yelling, I get the show is called Star Trek Picard.
Right.
And I get, like, everything is supposed to be about Picard and connected to Picard.
Right.
And, one of the things that I thought was really stupid initially was the idea of Rene Picard being the pilot that goes on the Europa mission. And because of that moment, Q was able to adjust it, and then a new future was set up where the human race became, is it alien? I guess alien phobic. I guess just conquering all aliens and just nothing but the human race was their whole thing.
So that sounds a little familiar.
In terms of
the planet, all right.
I mean, the planet right now, present day, a little bit.
Yeah,
but I guess if the planet was to unite against an alien, whatever. Is that good because then the human race is connected? Or is it? I don't know. That's a big question right there. But what I was saying was, like, I guess all about Picard. It has to be about Rene Picard. But then I was laughing because, like, Brent Spiner was in there, and then this version of Brent Spiner is playing, a doctor who's related to the doctor who came up with Khan during the eugenics war,
right?
Who then is also the ancestor of the doctor who created Data.
Right.
Like, there's just this big weird connection, and it's like that's not how
it's not tied up because we don't see how he's connected.
Well, we see how he's connected because remember at the very end, Brent Spiner's character pulls out a folder and it just says Project Khan.
So that piece we know, but I don't see where he's connected to. Does he create Data? I'm still
he does that
right?
version. I'm pulling it up real quick. So he's playing Adam Song,
right?
And he is an ancestor of an ancestor of an ancestor who created Data.
Okay. So what about the Brent Spiner in the first season? Who created that?
So that version of Brent Spiner, how do you say his name? Brent Spiner, Spiner. Yeah, Spiner. So Brent Spiner in the first season, that one is the son of the doctor who created Data.
Oh, I see.
That's who he is. But like that entire generation or family tree, the songs are responsible for Khan, for part of the eugenics war, and then for the whole android Data thing. So again, it's very kind of like Star Wars, where Star Wars can't exist if a Skywalker is not part of the damn story.
Right.
Oh,
and again, I get it. It's called Picard, but come up with like something
else.
And that's the other thing too. You had Isa Briones playing Soji. So she was one of the sisters or daughters of Data from the first season.
Yes.
The same actress that was in this season playing the daughter of, Dr. Song.
Right.
But again, it's like I get you're recycling the actors because you have them, but it just feels weird.
I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it, but Wesley Crusher.
Wesley Crusher, yeah, big spoiler. I mean, this whole thing is a spoiler, but yeah, Wesley Crusher showing up. You are obviously big fans of Next Generation,
right?
How did that whole?
I was puzzled at first. I thought, how is he here? And then I remembered he does go away and he joins this. I've forgotten what it was.
It was on a special project or something.
And then he disappeared.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. He was not in the last. Was it the last season?
It was like he was going through a transformation. He was going to be something else.
Yeah. So the way I read it in Next Generation was he is on assignment and then he goes missing. He's not killed or anything, and it's revealed finally years later he went and joined this group called the Travelers.
Right.
Which, with any mega franchise, you always have to be adjusting and adding new elements.
Right.
Otherwise, the whole thing gets stale.
I'm just wondering if we're going to get a show called The Travelers.
Well, so Will Wheaton did an interview post, or I guess like last week or whenever, about the cameo and everything. And he was saying when they approached him about this, and take it with a grain of salt, but basically he was like, yeah, it's like the Travelers are the Doctor Who or the Gallifreyans of Star Trek.
Right.
So maybe we do get a spin-off where it's very Doctor Who, Star Trek-esque, which I don't know if we need it.
I don't think so. I don't think we will need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because how much more contents can you put?
They will milk this thing until
they will rehash some old stories with a different angle. But they will.
Sure.
Oh, I mean, we'll talk about the new Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. That is a very good about rehashing stories. I mean, Star Trek has this problem as well, where it's like, okay, we know there's 15, 17 years, whatever, between episodes 3 and 4. Let's tell every single minute between then, and we will have content for the next 100 years.
Yes.
Star Trek is going to probably do something similar because why not?
Yeah. Who knows? Because like you said, they're milking it for everything. Everything it works.
But then we have people like myself who will watch it.
So, I mean, I was a big fan of the Star Trek Picard Season 1 first trailer.
Right.
That was the only thing that got me which a trailer is supposed to do. It's supposed to hook you, right?
Right.
It's marketing material.
Correct.
And that worked. I was very much, okay, this is interesting. And then I just kind of forced myself to watch Season 1. I was like, I'm going to hurt myself and watch this, I guess. And then Season 2 was very much the same. But then it ended in such a way where it ended quite nicely, right?
Yes, I thought they tied it up nicely with little bows and ribbons. Basically, everybody is happy. Everything's solved. The what was her name? Francie. I'm not good with names.
Dr. Angus?
No, the other girl who's the guy that the son figure appears back in the.
Did lady
Eleanor.
Yeah. He's back. And we thought he was dead, but Q brings him back.
I mean, we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Right, because remember she wanted to fix the timeline so she can
go get him.
She can get him back, isn't it? So.
And then our friend
Rios.
Rios.
Rios stayed.
Yes, he stays and lives happily. And it was interesting to hear that the little boy that he raises goes on to do so much.
So it's crazy because the boy is raised by Rios and obviously his mother, and then because it's Guinan, played by Whoopi Goldberg, at the bar, says to Picard, number one, he says to Picard, "You're terrible with observation," because she's had a picture of Rios and the family behind the bar for years, I guess,
and he never noticed.
And she knew about all of this. But then she goes on to tell, Picard that, because of Renee Picard, he gets some kind of bacteria or whatever from the Europa mission, which he uses to help clean up the oceans.
Right.
Star Trek has always been about, go green and clean and all that fun stuff. But it's definitely awesome to hear that.
Yeah. It was good. I liked that there were all these little, tie-ups. Everything was explained.
Yeah.
That was nice. It was a good end. There were times, I think, some of the episodes were not that great.
What about the episodes around ICE? So the American branch of government around Border Patrol. So they spent about two, almost 3 episodes discussing and showcasing what ICE does
Yeah.
and about illegal immigrants. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, but I mean, we didn't. So what you're talking? Okay, well, it's 2024, obviously.
So I think that would have been that's my concern, that in 2024 we still have these border issues.
Yes.
That's another 300 years. No. Oh no.
It's 2 years from
2
now.
more, 3 years.
300
I'm thinking of 2024.
2020. Wait,
Yeah.
24.
I'm thinking of 24.
24. Yeah.
100.
No.
No, that's just a few years from now. But I would like to hope that will
Get resolved.
Yes.
I think it's funny that for production and from a storytelling point, they decided to go 2024, in terms of and shooting location. The location they landed was Los Angeles.
Right.
They've done that a lot. Like Star Trek is notorious for always going back in time to whatever year they're currently shooting in or whatever decade. Because guess what? At the end of the day, it's a lot cheaper. Right, because you don't have to worry about sets as much. You don't have to worry about costume. You just go find whatever.
Everything's right here.
Everything's right here.
Yeah.
I wonder, was that a budget decision ultimately? Like, did they decide we need to make it a little bit cheaper cost wise, or?
No, I think they must have. I think they deliberately brought that element of the story in. The question is, we'd have to think about carefully why. Why did they want to bring that in? The border control, maybe just to tie up or give Rios more of a storyline, his character, and then his involvement with the doctor, the girl, and the issues that her patients have, because she's a doctor who's taking care of anybody, regardless.
I think it also, though, it ties into, I think, a couple other elements where Q shows the crew, a Earth where they are, alien phobic. They hate aliens, right? ICE, I'm just generalizing here.
Yes.
ICE is an organization that is very much against illegal immigrants.
Right.
They do not like them. They want them out of their space.
Right.
You could draw a comparison there.
Right.
But then I think you could also take it a step further to the start of the season where you have this Borg queen just show up and then start, not attacking, stunning everybody, but attacking, invading one's border, one's space. So I wonder if that's where they decide to draw all those weird
Which
comparisons.
is interesting, because what do the Borg do? They assimilate.
Right.
They take everybody and assimilate and become a collective.
I mean, you could argue, again, this is not the pod for politics, but you could make the argument that ICE is a version of that, because especially in the previous president's reign of terror, we'll just call it that. Remember the big stories that were coming out where families being separated,
Ripped
being
apart.
shipped off to other locations. I mean, hell, look back to the start of America.
Right.
Native Americans were forced into,
Camps.
westernized schools and camps to,
They were separated. They separated
to assimilate into whatever culture.
into Western culture.
Damn, the Borg
That's
the Borg is America.
Yeah. Well, not really.
Fuck.
The Borg could also be colony. It's colonization,
True.
basically.
Colonization, I guess. Yeah.
So, but it's been done throughout history.
So that's probably then why they
Probably.
picked 2024.
Probably why. Yeah.
Jeez. Wow, we figured that weird aspect out. Speaking of the Borg,
Right.
let's talk about the big reveal at the end, the season finale wrap. So obviously it starts with this giant gaping break in space, weird looking, not traditional Borg ship.
Right.
And then we see Dr. Agnes, the new Borg queen,
Yes.
jump in and is like, hey, what's up? I'm still here. Let's back up. So in 2024, the Borg queen that has now taken over Agnes's body realizes she's alone or lonely, and they go and they work on creating a whole new Borg collective out in the galaxy.
Right.
So that's 400 years before Picard and crew go to the Delta Quadrant, meet the Borg over there, who then realize we got to come over. So there's like two different Borg collectives? Is that what is happening?
No, I thought we were seeing the beginning of a new Borg collective.
Right. Not the main Borg.
Dr. Angus.
Yeah.
In the timeline of the 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they go back to fix everything and they're out in space and they have that giant glowing thing that's going to suck them all up or whatever it is. You have the Borg of the present time, their present time. Remember, because he's gone back in time.
Right.
So now he's in his present time. And so this new Borg under Dr. Angus has developed over 400 years.
Right.
So, and look, they want to be with with everyone. They want to save the universe.
Right.
Which is totally different to the Borg that we knew before.
Right.
So,
well, that's what I'm saying, though. I think there's
it's
two different
yes, there
collectives
are.
out
And
there
I
now.
think Q did allude to that. He did say that there's going to be two. He said something about two
things.
Two different things happening at the same time.
Well, probably he meant two timelines.
Yeah.
But
Two timelines?
Well, Star Trek is always like
the timelines.
their timeline situation is like
Yeah.
chicken egg, like
Yeah.
that. It's more like chicken egg, and there's another chicken that then had the egg that was the original egg, but then also that chicken was the original. Like their timeline is a mess because just the fact that like they haven't retconned anything, but they have established now that there was another Borg entity at the very least in the Alpha Quadrant of the galaxy for about 400 years, just kind of floating around doing its own thing, and it never came or never interacted with the original collective.
Right.
Which I guess it kind of works because the main evil Borg collective, they don't show up in the Alpha Quadrant until the beginning of the Next Generation series. So I guess that kind of works, maybe.
But the thing going back to how did they get the Borg to go back in time? You got to remember that was the only way they could go back in time. Where did this Borg creature?
Well, so remember when Q threw them into the weirder timeline or the new timeline, or the alien phobic timeline, there was a Borg queen, the original like half one.
Right.
So that one they must have just caught coincident. Like I mean, at the end of the day, it's just plot device.
Oh.
She was just there because they needed a way to get back in time.
And
then they looped it into this whole thing. It's also interesting with Dr. Agnes, played by... Wow, IMDb is not working for me. Played by Alison Pill. She actually, a couple days ago before the finale aired, broke news during some kind of radio podcast that she is not in season 3, which is interesting. And I bring it up because one of the final things that the Borg Queen says to Picard is the Borg want to join the Federation.
Correct.
Yes.
So you would think that character
will
would
show
play
us.
a pivotal role in this final season.
Right.
But from what she's saying, because they shot season 2 and season 3 of Picard back to back.
I see.
So it should actually be out potentially before the end of the year.
The third season.
The third season. Potentially. I mean, I'm just speculating here.
So then are we left to imagine that she is out there with her Borg still shielding the universe from that?
Well, so that's the other interesting thing is, so they've set up season 3 to be this. Season 3, I think, is going to be this big focus on this new transwarp conduit.
Right.
So whatever entity punched through and created this event, they were able to obviously stop it with all the shields, and
Right.
then itself was kind of just goofy. But I have to have control of the whole fleet, but it's only going to be 20 ships. What? Okay. So they were able to stop it, but then it created a new transwarp conduit. So we've seen transwarp conduits before in everyone's favorite Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
There's the conduit between the Alpha Quadrant and what's the Dominion Quadrant? Wherever the Dominion Quadrant with the weird goo people.
Yeah.
There is like a trans warp conduit. We also see them in Voyager. It's kind of how the Borg jump from quadrants to quadrants, but we don't know where this one goes to.
Right.
So I think that's what season 3 is going to be about. Is like focus. Like there's also been this whole thing that the original crew of Next Generation, you're going to see all of those characters. You're going to see
Deanna.
all of them. They're going to at
Riker,
least make an appearance or something, which makes sense because I think this is how they're going to wrap everyone's story.
Picard and
everyone.
What was his name? Jonathan Frakes, number one.
I mean, but Jonathan Frakes is also, he's very involved in Star Trek behind the scenes, writing, directing, producing.
I think I saw his name. He came up as executive producer.
Yeah. But what do you guys think season 3 is going to end up being about? What's your bold prediction for season 3?
That's such a good question. I'll let you answer it first.
But the thing is, I mean, if you look at the way how season 1 went and season 2 went, it's pretty hard to like make a bold prediction. But like you said, it might be like are they gonna because at one time Picard was actually a Borg. He was assimilated as a Borg. So will they go along that line in a sense? Because like you said, the Borg, you don't know where they are at the moment, because you only see them see when they protect the humanity from this thing that was shooting.
Yeah, the event.
The event that was happening. So will they try to? Because remember, this is supposed to be Picard, so that one part we didn't see. Nothing of that was brought up as yet. So are we going to see something about with the Borg? How?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see the Borg. Not after what Ravi just revealed about the.
Yeah, but
she's not in it. Why would
right?
we see
But
the Borg?
remember, this was something that was created by Q.
Right.
We are going back to when you actually had the
original
Borg, because he created, because he said you have to really forgive yourself, right? So that's how Q created this. But with this,
I'm just trying to figure out how that would tie into. Why would that continue a storyline with the Borg?
But the thing is, I mean, season 1 and season 2, there's no.
Well, I guess there's
no comparison.
You could argue there's season. I mean, if the show's called Picard, season 1 is about his regret.
Yeah.
Of his regret of not helping humanity out. Right. His regret in later life. Season 2 is about his trauma and forgiving himself. So what
comes next?
Yeah. I mean, I guess also you could say then season 1's also about forgiving himself.
Yeah.
Both seasons are about forgiving yourself for a particular aspect or a point in your life.
Right, which is interesting because his point in life is it's like towards the end, and it's a process that we all go through as we get older. Once you finish, your youth and your adult and midlife, and then what comes next, and you start to have to. Lots of questions come up, and obviously the things that were unresolved, like with Picard and his guilt, not just for humanity, but his guilt of not having saved his mother, thinking that was his responsibility, and finding or realizing it wasn't, and then understanding how to allow himself to be loved. With that new Picard, it will be interesting to see what his next challenge would be. And there surely, for another series, there has to be a challenge.
Yeah, that's true.
So what is this challenge? That would be the question. Is it just to face death?
Well, it's also weird, though, because he has faced death, and then he was brought back.
Right.
Remember, his body is technically like a robot body.
Yeah.
So
it's cyber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'd be curious how they're going to wrap this. Are they going to end the character of Picard peacefully, or is it going to end similar to how Next Generation ended, where we continue on, we keep exploring and all that fun stuff. But again, Next Generation is different because you're following a crew and kind of the ideals of the Federation.
Yeah. While
Picard, you're hyper focused on one individual.
So I'm just wondering, will he become something else and join the universe and go off into the sunset?
Into the sunset.
Yeah.
He probably will join the Borg.
You think he's gonna become back to the Borg?
Yep.
I don't want
I wouldn't like to see that. No.
The whole thing when he becomes the Locutus, I feel like they've talked about it quite a bit as being, besides what was revealed in this season with his mother, the whole stuff around Locutus was obviously his other most traumatic event, being connected to this thing. And I feel like they have done a pretty good job kind of wrapping that up, especially in Star Trek First Contact. Worf and him getting into a screaming match right? Over like, we have
yes.
to protect the ship. I'll sacrifice you all to
Yes.
stop these pieces of garbage.
Right.
So I think they've kind of figured that out. I wouldn't. It would be interesting.
Would and while the episode was showing, this last episode with himself and Q, there was a thought that occurred to me, and that was Q is dying, and he's resolving a lot of things for Picard.
Mm-hmm.
He's very vested in Picard.
Yeah, he's his favorite.
He's his favorite. So perhaps would Picard become
Next Q.
the next Q?
I had the same thought as well, especially when he went up to him.
And
give him a
they
hug.
hugged, and it was very like,
Yes.
not Picard, not Q.
Q.
That's not their characters.
Right.
And you see them coming together, and then I do wonder if that's his next progression. He will become.
But I mean, Qs are, the way the Qs always been explained to me is they are to a degree a god. They can do anything, move anywhere,
Right.
do whatever they want.
And
So I guess
influence,
you could argue the fact that they could turn someone into a Q.
Right. And so I'm wondering if that's what's going to be next.
Where is Picard when it comes to, like, Picard has no children, correct?
I do not
He
believe
had
he
a
has
kid, but
children.
the kid died, or
Well, the thing, I mean, if you go back to Next Generation, at one point I thought Will Crusher was his kid.
yeah,
Yes,
it was
we
all
also
teased a
thought
little
that.
bit.
Yeah.
That
Tease
Crusher
of
was
that
a
was
kid.
his kid
His
because
child.
he remember he had a thing with the Doctor in
Yep.
Next Generation prior to them shooting or working together on Next Generation. So it always left you wondering, was Will Crusher his kid? So,
Right.
And the fact that the cameo was dropped, maybe that will become a part of season 3, where there's something to do with these travelers
It could
and
be.
the flow of
Yeah.
time and everything.
It's because they brought Wesley back.
See, I always look at, like, if you're exploring a character, I think they've done a good job of, like, figuring out in season 1 his guilt of the present, figuring out his guilt of his past. But then,
Could we see that maybe Wesley is his son?
I mean, they could
that be revealed?
they could do
Does
whatever
it-
they want,
they
but
can
that would
do
be
that.
like
Who knows?
the logical wrap up of a character, right? Is
Right.
your Next Generation, right? Like,
Yeah.
if he is like let's say it is revealed that he is a father, and then that would make sense for, like, the season 3 wrapping up of him then having to come to terms of he is a father. What does that mean? And completing that cycle and everything. That would, to me, would make
It kind of would make sense
to, like,
yeah.
wrap the story of Picard.
That would be interesting to
And
see.
Tom Hardy could play it because he did it in. Well, he didn't play his son. He played a clone of Picard.
Did he?
Yeah, remember? So it was in Star Trek Nemesis, the last Next Generation movie.
Okay.
It's when
yes,
Data
yes.
dies.
Yes, yeah.
The Romulans get some Picard DNA and clone Picard for question mark reasons. I think that movie was wild because it's why did you clone Picard? And then you had a bald Tom Hardy, which was hilarious.
Which is hilarious.
He always plays the bad guy. isn't he?
Yeah. I think so. I think for my bold prediction, I think I'm going to lean into the idea that I think it's going to be about Picard and a Next Generation, whether that is physically Wesley Crusher, you idiot, or, is my son, or if it is this idea of like children or influencing the next generation or something, or being like a father or prominent figure. So
Right.
I think that's how you kind of wrap the story of Picard.
So we'll be interested to see.
Yeah. I mean, again, if it wasn't for how they ended season 2, I think I would have been like, fuck season 3. I'm not watching it. I'm not dealing with this. It's not worth the roller coaster of emotion and being made fun of. So.
Yeah. So who made fun of you?
Oh, Krishna
And Arjun,
and
because
Learman.
and Learman. 'cause-
Arjuna says he's going to watch Picard.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
I don't believe him.
He's busy.
He's busy with watching The Walking Dead still.
Oh.
Well, here, before we get into the newest Star Trek show,
Yes.
Strange New World, let's ask that question. Do you all remember how we do that here on Was It Good?
Yes.
Okay, who'd like to go first to ask the question?
Was it good?
You have to say the name
Oh.
because, it's a podcast, so they can't see us.
Star Trek Picard.
You're right. But who are you asking?
I'm asking Ravi.
There you go. Okay.
Ravi,
Yes.
Star Trek Picard,
Mm-hmm.
this last season, season 2. Was it good?
I hate to admit this, but yes, it was good. It ended peacefully. It ended well.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was a roller coaster of I hate this show, I love this show.
Yeah.
And yeah, it tied up a lot of things and introduced new things, and it made you think and get excited for what's next.
Right.
So overall, it did a good job of keeping you engaged. So yeah, it was good.
So it's good. Good.
Dad, was Star Trek Picard season 2? I have a lot of money. Here's my chateau. Good.
I would say it was good, but like there were some episode I didn't want to watch, and for some reason, your mom can say to this. Whatever reason I didn't want to watch it, but once I started watching it, it got me into it. But for start watching it, if it wasn't for your mom, I may not have watched it. So, but like I said, because your mom insisted and I watched it, it was good.
So Dad was held at gunpoint. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, Dad would fall asleep, basically.
Yes, and then,
but it managed to keep him
Actually,
awake.
real quick, how much of the season were you asleep for?
No. What was good about it was because your mom wanted me to watch the season, she would stop it, and then I would go sleep, and then
That's
we'll
cool.
come back and watch it again. So.
Yeah, because he would
That's
fall
good.
asleep, and if he was too tired,
And
I'd say, okay.
then if I felt like if I'm too tired, as you know, I'll fall asleep, and your mom will stop it. But that was good of your mom because I don't know, she wanted me to watch it. But like I said, once I get into it, I want to watch it.
It was definitely the middle episodes were the ones where even I was usually doing something else when they were having these weird like deeper conversations and I was like, I get what you're doing, but
move on.
Speed it up.
Right.
Come on.
Right. There was like those parts. I think they could have speeded up, and then, but obviously you had to know what they were actually talking about, and so that's why I think those were put in to watch. But
Character development's the thing I hate the most in this world.
I mean, they are there. You know who they are. You can figure out what they do and
who, what, when, where.
Yep. Don't need to go. Okay. Here we go.
Yes.
Was season 2 Picard good? Or was it good?
Was it good? It was good. It was not great, but it was good.
Well, this is called Was It Good? So I think we're okay there.
It was good. It was good because it was unpredictable at times. And that in itself kept me wanting to see what happens next.
That's good.
Yeah. That was why I thought it was good.
Nice. So that's obviously Star Trek Picard season 2. So that ended, and the same day that ended, they gave us Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware, at some point in the early 2000s when Star Trek Enterprise was around, some dingleberry at Paramount decided, you know what? Star Trek has always been about the one-off episodes, maybe a two-parter here and there. And, let's do a season-long fucking thing and make an entire season about one, particular storyline. That's basically what happened in Star Trek Enterprise. It was the whole Xindi arc.
Right.
And then season 4, the last season, they went back to the, episode or like story of the week. And guess what? Their ratings went up.
Yep.
People loved it. And then for some reason, Paramount canceled it. And that was the end of Star Trek Enterprise. Since then, we've gotten Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard. It has been very much a season-long, story and not the traditional Star Trek, what are we doing, episode of the week type thing.
Right.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds, its whole point is to kind of correct and get back to like the core of Star Trek, which is having these interesting one-off episodes discussing, deeper conversations around society, individuals, but through the lens of like sci-fi. Right. So we got our first episode this week. What did you guys think? Initial thoughts of this brand new show with the crew of Enterprise and Chris Pike.
I liked it. My initial thought was I liked it. The actor they got to play Pike, I thought was very well suited for that part. He looked exactly the way I had imagined Pike to look. Of course, I remember seeing what Pike looked like in the series way back in the 60s. There's an episode, with the original Star Trek team where they show what happens with Pike, and they see Pike sitting in this like half machine type thing, and he's sort of disfigured. And I like that they showed that you see a scene again in this episode that alludes back to that, and I liked that because it brings you back to who this Pike is,
right?
But now we're getting to see Pike before, and so I'm interested in that. Who knew he was from Montana? Well,
yeah, his farm.
Yes,
in
in
Montana. Right.
So you had Picard with his chateau in France, and
Pike
now we
has
have Pike in his.
So it's basically, if I want to be a Starfleet captain, I need to own a lot of land.
You need a lot of land.
Interesting.
In some remote place.
So
right.
Interesting.
so they can land the ship, the spaceship.
The ship can land.
No, it sounds like only landowners get to be captains.
Yeah.
It's a very colonial thought process.
Only the rich. The well-connected.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Rich. Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts, though, Dad, for Strange New Worlds?
My first initial thought is Pike's supposed to be prior to
Kirk.
But these technology is far more integrated than...
Dad, this is the same take you had when we saw Star Wars Attack of the Clones. I remember this specifically. We left the theater and you said, boy, that was interesting. Why is the tech so much better if it's in the fucking past?
Because this is now 2020.
Right. No, I understand. We are trying to figure out... You're trying to portray somebody.
Yeah.
Pike, right? He was a captain, right? Pike before Kirk. Sorry, spoiler.
No, I mean, this whole thing's spoiler.
There was a Kirk. What was it?
Yeah, Captain Kirk.
Kirk. There was a
James
Kirk
T. Kirk.
who actually came on to
the Enterprise?
the Enterprise towards the last scene.
Yeah, that weird guy that had a mustache.
Yeah, exactly. He's supposed to be
Lieutenant Kirk.
Kirk, right? He came
Yeah,
on.
but that was his father.
Right. Yeah, we know it was
So
his
if you remember the
father?
story of James T. Kirk,
right.
that was his father. His
Yes.
father was on the starship.
His father died.
Wait,
Out
on
there.
the Enterprise?
Yes, they went out on the mission, and he so
While he was being born, I
or
think.
actually what
No. So you're thinking about J.J. Abrams' Star Trek.
Yeah.
Remember, that has nothing to do with this Star Trek. That's in a different timeline altogether. So that has nothing to do with this one. So that Kirk that we see at the end, towards the end of Strange New Worlds, that is James T. Kirk. The Kirk that will eventually become captain of the Enterprise.
That's supposed to be him?
That's supposed to be him, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Because remember, towards the end, Pike says, James T. Kirk, or Kirk, your new boss, Spock, on the science department.
Right.
So that's how those two initially meet. So they meet on the Enterprise, and there's going to be, and I'm curious to see, because, going back to initial thoughts of the show, I think I told you this, already before the show has even come out, Pike is my favorite character, favorite captain, because this man knows exactly the torture that awaits him in about 10 years-ish.
Yes.
He knows how he's going to die, and he is owning up to it. This entire episode was around him coming out of seclusion, going on a mission, and realizing that he could just try and hide, or he can try and go and better the world for others.
Which was lovely, and I loved that about him. But my favorite, there was a line in this that I really, really loved, and I actually...
you actually wrote it?
While you
copied it.
pulling that up,
Yeah.
there was one thing I wanted. No, I lost it. Train of thought. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
When I remember.
The line,
Sorry.
and I think this really speaks to Pike and will help him to accept and see what is coming his way. It's where the other character, his new number one, they have a conversation towards the end.
La'an?
Yeah, and she says, not believing you're going to die is what's going to get you killed.
Yes.
And that was how she survived when everybody else for her
died.
They,
from the Gorgons.
whatever they were.
Yeah,
When they were,
yeah. And I feel that it speaks to him very loudly.
Yeah.
and that will help him, and that's why he doesn't die in that event. He ends up in that machine.
Right.
So that was like my favorite piece right there.
So what I was going to say, so that the present James T. Kirk Enterprise that we have, what's his name? The guy who acted Kirk now, with the new Enterprise series, movies.
Oh, the one with Chris Pine.
Chris
Chris
Pine.
Pine, yeah.
It's very confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's Chris Pine. What I was going to say was, when he became the captain of the Enterprise, remember he didn't go to school. He didn't go to the.
He went to school, but he was like
he didn't want.
dropout.
He was
Right.
a rebel.
He didn't want to.
rebellious, yeah.
But then when he was on a mission with Spike, with Pike, so this Pike that we're seeing, not this the series Pike, the Pike we see in that movie, when he was supposed to go ask Spike to, are you gonna relieve or pass the thing on to me? So he had to ask Spike to your relieve of captaincy, and he's gonna take it over. So which timeline is that now?
That's his own separate thing altogether.
That's okay. So that has nothing to do with this one.
So what we're seeing right now, and the way it's been explained, is this is the Prime universe.
Okay.
So there's the Prime universe, there's the Dark universe or the Evil universe timeline. Then there's what they call the J.J. Abrams timeline, and that's what those Star Trek movies with Chris Pine and everything.
Right.
So that one is completely different because those events are so different. That Chris Pike does not have the same fate that the Prime Chris Pike or Captain Pike has.
The original,
The
yeah.
original has. So different story altogether.
Okay.
And honestly, those Star Trek movies, the JJ ones, are just they're, how do you put it politely? They're just weird action movies. I don't know if I necessarily consider them Star Trek.
Right.
They're their own things, and they can just stay over there.
Yeah, I think that's where we saw the one where, according to the J.J. Abrams one,
It was
that's
I
when he
understand
died,
now
yes,
where that
Yeah.
comes
That's where
from.
we saw
Yeah,
that.
so that's where that's why I'm excited for Strange New Worlds, because we're going to instead of there's a new crisis in the galaxy and it's going to take all season to figure it out.
Right.
It's more what we saw in this first episode where
Right.
First Contact, right? First Contact, the Prime Directive, the
That
whole
was great.
Those are all core, fundamental, amazing things of Star Trek.
Right.
And we're introduced to this planet that his original number one is now captain of, I forget the ship's name. Sorry. They explore this planet. This planet has warp capabilities, not because they're using warp technology to travel great distances,
As
but
a
to
weapon.
to nuke and
As a
destroy
weapon.
their enemies.
Yes.
And what it was really cool though is it tied into the events of Star Trek Discovery, where they were able to observe
Yeah.
this galactic big rip in their sky, and they were able to figure out the technology. That I thought was really, really cool. Where
I liked also that it is the beginning because of that event and because of what happened. Then the Prime Directive becomes, they develop it from there.
they further have to change
yes,
it.
they
right?
develop it from there.
Because
Yeah.
they even explain, they show a map of all the planets in the region,
Right.
and a lot of them are part of the Federation or working to become part of the Federation, which means you're going to pollute the night sky with spaceships coming in and out.
Right.
Planets that aren't necessarily ready for warp capability. If they're close enough, you're going to see it. So it was discovering and talking about this idea of polluting a world without even realizing you're polluting it because worlds are developing and you're so close to it. That I thought was really cool and a nice way to kind of talk about something we've been shown a lot of in the Star Trek canon and universe. Geez, I lost my train of thought. The next thing that happens all the time here,
Oh.
where I'm talking one thing and I completely forget what was the next thing.
What was the next thing we were going to say about
Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Oh, that was it. So, I'm not sure if you picked up on this,
Go ahead.
but Star Trek has, to a degree,
Yes.
and this is actually kind of depressing, so bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds has made the events of January 6th somewhat canon in the Star Trek history of the world. What I mean by that is when Pike beams himself down and he's talking to the delegates of the two alien species fighting with each other, he broadcasts images of Earth during our now, the 21st century, and they show imagery of January 6th.
I didn't recognize, did they?
It was images from like news footage of January 6th.
When they were fighting.
And Pike says that was the start of the second Civil War in America. That was very like on the nose, depressing, but also like that is what Star Trek does.
It was
like,
also very astute.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was like, I was kind of like, oh, okay.
But it's funny you mentioned that because I went further in my mind from that statement because then I thought, so then the Second Civil War, Third World War, and where are we now? And I feel, you know, and I don't want to feel the way I feel, but I feel that that's, you know, it's a bit depressing.
It's a bit depressing. Also, it feels it's very like on the nose where. Yeah, we are kind of to a degree like it feels like we are on the cusp of like
that's the
World
power
War
of TV, movies, film. That's the power of it is to get messages across, to tell a story, to enlighten.
Yeah, that has always been like the core of Star Trek is to kind of show you your shit, and then hopefully you don't let that happen.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting and like that's a good nod to the creators of this show. Like tying it back into real world things, and then
it was thoughtful, wasn't it?
Very thoughtful. Yeah. Overall, I think when I look at Star Trek pilot episodes and the first, this is probably
I liked
top
it.
three
I felt very
of all time.
pleased afterwards. I said to your dad, I really did like that.
Yeah. I'm very excited. I said to the bros, I was like, Drina's gonna watch it, Learman's gonna watch it. Krishna is on the fence,
right?
But like, he should at least give it a try.
I think he should at least watch one and see what he thinks.
Because again, I think, and they said they're going to do this, is going to be what are we doing this week, and we're going to keep it self-contained. And you know, Voyager did, I think, a really good job of this, where we have this overarching theme, which is we're stuck, we need to get home.
Right.
That's the main big plot.
Yeah.
But each week was still very
a little adventure, a different adventure. Different
adventure. This one is definitely gonna focus on Pike, and Pike knows where he is now, and he knows where he's gonna end up.
Yeah.
But we get to see everything in between in the adventures of the week. So I think they've got a good formula. So I'm hopeful for this.
On a really, really silly note, you know, I would love to see like some of the episodes like it when I watched the series way back when. Remember, it started in the 60s. I was born in the 60s, so I got to watch it while I grew up. And Trouble with Tribbles.
Yes.
You know, that kind of storyline, or those little fun things are what for me keeps the younger generation entertained. And I would like to see some of that element come back. Because some of it can be really heavy right now. Yeah. Yep. And so the younger generation may not want to see that.
Yeah. No, they definitely, seeing the silly and breaking up, I think, is helpful. Deep Space Nine did a good job, too, where a lot of Deep Space Nine is some heavy shit. Right. You know, invasion, the idea of self, being a parent, that whole thing. And then...
just as we were, exactly as we were at the time.
But they had their episode with Trouble with Trebles, where they actually go back in time. Yeah. And it's a very fun... It's considered, I think, like one of the top 10 Star Trek episodes of all time. It's one of my favorites, the Tribbles. So, yeah, it would be kind of cool to see something like that. Who knows?
Trouble with Tribbles.
Trebles. If you go to like a lot of conventions, they'll have vending machines filled with like trebles. And
I need those. I just need to get
it's kind of fun.
I think I need those everywhere.
Yeah. All right. I think that's everything that we've got Star Trek wise. It sounds like you're both invested in Strange New Worlds.
Absolutely.
You're going to come back for season 3.
Season 3. Yeah.
That's good. Is there anything you want to promote? Usually when you have a guest on like a pod, the guest is allowed to then like promote something.
Oh, to promote something.
What do you guys like to promote?
Peace.
Yeah, that works. Mom is promoting peace.
Yes.
How may I help you?
Peace.
Peace.
Be thoughtful. Think ahead.
That's good.
filed all your taxes yet?
Yeah,
Have
file
you
tax.
filed your
If not, is it too late to get an extension?
Well, it's not so much of an extension. It's like if you if you know you're gonna get money back, the IRS don't care. It's only if you owe them money.
Ah,
And I mean, if you're filing an extension, it still doesn't get
Guaranteed.
you off the hook of
Oh.
if you owe money. So
so get your taxes done.
right. So the deadline is gone. So even if you file now, you still got and you owe. You're gonna pay. You're
So,
gonna pay
so what
interest.
is your advice to people who have not, as of now, paid their taxes?
We'll get it done as soon as possible.
I see.
The sooner you get it done, there's less
Headache.
interest and penalty you'll pay.
Penalties.
Well, there you go.
Especially if
So
you
get it done
owe.
ASAP.
Yes.
There you go.
Right.
It's good. Good.
Give me a call.
Give Dad a call. Well, actually, you can find Dad on Twitter, Facebook.
Twitter, Facebook,
What were they-
LinkedIn.
What are they looking for on Twitter?
At D Ramgopal.
There you go, D Ramgopal on
That's-
Twitter.
That's RAMGOPAUL.
There you go. Boom. You promoted yourself. Well done. Now go do other pods and keep pushing that. As always, you can find us Was It Good on Twitter at Was It Good, on Instagram and TikTok at Was It Good Pod, youtube.com/Was It Good. We have the full episodes and VODs. And check out our website, wasitgood.info for blogs and other fun things. Next pod is going to be
We didn't ask a famous question.
we can't ask it yet for Strange New Worlds.
That's
We will have you back on at the end of the season, and we will do a discussion around it then, for sure. Till then, goodbye.